In a world where education is key, finding the right math program for your kids is crucial. And that's where CTC Math steps in. This isn't just another math program, it's a comprehensive math curriculum covering everything from K to 12. What sets it apart? The video tutorials. They're not just educational, they're engaging, breaking down complex topics into bite-sized, understandable pieces. It's like having a math expert in your home, available anytime. And it's not about memorizing facts. It's about truly understanding math concepts, the kind of understanding that sticks with them, not just until the next test, but for life. Plus, the flexibility is unbeatable. Whether you're homeschooling or supplementing after-school learning, CTC Math fits into your schedule, not the other way around. Why not take the leap? Visit ctcmath.com today and start your free trial. Discover how a comprehensive curriculum can challenge your child's perspective on math. It's time to give them the tools they need to succeed. That's ctcmath.com.
If you're looking for Homeschool Sanity, welcome. I'm Dr. Melanie Wilson, Christian psychologist turned homeschool mom and curriculum author. But I was once so disorganized, I thought I had to quit homeschooling and stop having kids. Now, by the grace of God, I have 6 homeschool graduates. Whether we're discussing parenting, productivity, or practical tips, I pray that this episode is just what you need for happy, healthy homeschooling. Hey homeschoolers, you can tell that I am recovering from a cold, but I am hopeful to be fully recovered by the time I attend the Great Homeschool Convention in Columbus. We know that Hollywood is not our friend when it comes to raising the next generation, but Craig Dehut is. He is the co-founder and COO of Appian Media. What sets Appian Media apart is their 3-pronged approach: accuracy, professional production, and free accessibility. This commitment reflects their mission to remove barriers to the gospel. Appian Media's success is evident not just through awards and views, but in its profound impact on individuals. With 9 million YouTube views and global support for funded projects, their recent endeavor in Egypt showcases the widespread international reach and community backing they have gained. Craig is fervently dedicated to making the Bible more accessible and meaningful, particularly for homeschool families, faith-based individuals, and those intrigued by the historical and geographical aspects of biblical stories. Their content strikes a chord with Bible believers seeking a renewed perspective. I know you'll enjoy my chat about equipping the next generation to counter the culture of Hollywood. And if you're attending the Great Homeschool Convention in Columbus this week, please stop by our booths to say hello. Craig, thank you so much for joining me here on the Homeschool Sanity Show. I am excited about our topic today, but I thought I would have you tell us more about you and your family before we dive into that topic.
Certainly. I'm Craig Dehut. I live in the Midwest here in the Indianapolis area with my wife, Karen, and our 3 kiddos. Our oldest is 11, and we have a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old, and we're homeschooling them. I actually come from a homeschool family. Our family is originally from Oregon. I'm one of 7 children, and my parents were absolute superheroes in order to homeschool all of us. And I'm just thrilled to be doing that with our kids. And I also work from home, and so it just allows us all that kind of time that I think is really valuable.
Well, that is wonderful. So I didn't know that for sure about you when we set up the interview. Why did you and your wife choose to homeschool?
Sure. So my wife grew up and had a great experience in the public school system in Lincoln, Nebraska. Her mother was a teacher. Karen actually went to school to become an art teacher. And so she had a great experience with her education growing up. And I had a great experience with ours, but we both recognized the pros and cons of each, educational approach. And so when we got married and started having kids, it wasn't kind of a given either way, where obviously we know we're going to go with this approach. But it just kind of over time, we were able to recognize that we believed that we could give our kids a better educational experience than what was currently available when we began. And I mean no disrespect to the school systems around here, but her being a teacher and me seeing how it could work, we really wanted to be able to pour into our kids more directly, and that's been a blessing to us. We don't have to concern ourselves with, I wonder what they're really being taught, which is something that is a topic near and dear to my heart and what I do as a profession. And so this has been a great approach, but we're also, as we go year by year, there are things that we can do to kind of merge the two of those together. There are school systems around here that do let homeschoolers come and participate even in specific subjects or things that maybe we can't do. Homeschool co-ops that allow us to get involved with other families in more of a structured environment. So we're taking it year by year, but thus far, starting with our oldest, who's now 11, we've been really pleased with what we've been able to do.
Fantastic. It's so much fun for me to get the beginning story for how families have chosen to homeschool. Just so many different reasons, but it works for so many different families. So I'm glad it's working for you. Okay, so let's talk about Hollywood and the specific challenges that Christian families and homeschoolers are facing today when it comes to Hollywood's influence on culture and values.
Yeah. And when I use that term, I think you're using it in the same way. It's content that is being presented to our families, whether it's coming out of Hollywood or coming out of Atlanta or coming honestly from overseas, but the filmmaking industry and movies and TV shows and some of the challenges that I've recognized both in growing up and in the 20 years that I've been working in this industry is just the accessibility. And that's a pro and a con, but there are so many ways now that Hollywood's worldview can get into our home, more so than there were 25 or 30 years ago. 25 or 30 years ago, we had to make a conscious choice to leave the home to go to a movie theater or to a video rental store. Do you remember those, right?
Yes.
Where we would grab something and bring it into our home. And obviously with the advent of things like cable television and other things, we were suddenly able to bring it into our home without leaving. But now it's through our phones and it's through our computers and all of these things that most of us are carrying around in our pocket at all times. Our kids can pick up the iPad and start scrolling, and it's pervasive. It's everywhere. And again, there are pros and cons to that. If it's quality content, if it's really good stuff, I'm thrilled that our kids have such access. But we both know that that's not really the case with much of what's coming in. And it almost feels like a ship taking on water. I'm not even sure where all it's coming in, and we're trying to figure out how to manage that. And then another challenge is, frankly, the tactics that Hollywood uses in order to influence our families. Their tactics have changed. It used to be that we were on the same page. When Hollywood first was founded, they actually had a code of conduct, a code that they abided by that was incredibly conservative in regards to not allowing anything to adversely affect the family. And they gave that up pretty early on. And now they have, over the decades, have subtly introduced things But as of just a handful of years ago, especially Disney, top executives we've now seen Zoom calls where they've dropped the facade. They're just being very plain and obvious about what they are doing and want to do more of. They're not trying to hide it anymore. And so we've got to be aware of that and meet that head on.
Yeah. I just was having this image of myself as a little girl sitting in front of the television. And when that Disney splash screen came on, I was so excited. Mm-hmm. And with my now adult parental perspective, playing into that scene, I knew that my parents trusted the content that they were putting out. Oh, it's a Disney movie. That's so right. She can watch it and it's going to be great. Yes. And we just don't have that anymore. I think that is such an apt observation about how things have changed. So given that the environment has changed so much, and I appreciate so much how you're saying that it's so pervasive. It's as though we have invited all these people who have very different value systems than we do as parents into our home all the time. And then we're leaving the room and letting them talk to our kids.
That's right.
Right. So, and it's a concern. So how can homeschooling parents begin equipping their children to recognize and respond to the message in mainstream media that conflict with our biblical worldview?
Yeah, that's a great question. And what I tell parents and what I remind myself and my wife about is, first, we have to be aware and keep in mind there always is a message. I trained at the feet of Hollywood professionals when I went to film school. They did not, try to hide the fact that our objective was more than merely to entertain people. They referred to us as culture changers in school. And the point that they were making is, who else would we allow to talk at us? Not even with us. It's not a conversation. They get to talk at their audiences for hours at a time. And they would make the point, what politician have you ever allowed to do that? What preacher would you let a 2-hour sermon? Like, no one, we don't do that. But we sit ourselves down in front of Hollywood writers and filmmakers, and we open our brains and we let them talk at us. And so just being aware, that's the first thing. And that's the thing that I try to work hard to get Christian and especially homeschool families to appreciate, is they are trying to communicate something. It is a message, it is a message generation machine. We are not simply trying to entertain you. That is typically one of our secondary objectives. We know that we can't communicate messages very well if it's not entertaining. But just being aware. And so one of the things we do with our kids, and I try to be more mindful of this, but we used to, at the end of every movie, sometimes while the credits were still rolling, I'd go, okay, guys, so what was the point? What was the message? And that helps us first go, was there anything actually worthwhile in what we just sat down and consumed? Sometimes there are good lessons to learn. Sometimes there are lessons to learn based on the villains. Not necessarily every movie that has a villain is bad, as long as the movie communicates that the villain's actions were bad. And so just doing that with our kids reminds ourselves of, look, we have been just now sitting at the feet of a communicator. What were they trying to say? And is that worthwhile? Is it true? Does it pass, as we commonly say, does it pass the Philippians 4:8 kind of a test? Is it true? Is it honorable? Is it just? Is it pure? Is it lovely? Would I commend this to someone else? And if the answer is no, we have no business consuming that. That's not good for our kids or for us. And that's usually the right way we have found to begin the conversation and to begin to be more aware.
Right. I've done this so many times too. And I feel like, especially my teens have kind of rolled their eyes
Yeah.
at me. However, I do think it has gotten into their process about, how they think about movies, that they aren't just thinking about the special effects and, the whether it was a better or a worse movie than a previous film in the series, that kind of thing, that they are thinking about what messages were being communicated. So I love your reminder to us as parents to keep talking about that, even if our kids are saying, oh, I just want to enjoy the movie. Well, I do too.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to process a movie after the fact, just as you were describing.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be a 45-minute session. It doesn't have to be all right, everybody. But just being honest with yourself and going, look, I just committed 2 hours of my life. I'll never get those 2 hours back. Sometimes if we're binge watching shows, sometimes it's more than 2 hours. Mm-hmm. And go like, was that worth the price of admission? Mm-hmm. I just gave my brain space to a stranger, and do they need to take up residence in there? And we want to make sure that that what we're presenting to our kids passes that test, because there's so many other things we could consume, so many other pieces of media. I'm not advocating not being entertained, but find the things that will be fun to watch, because I enjoy the fun of it. I enjoy, analyzing the cinematography and talking about the storytelling and just appreciating good acting. But I don't want to get so caught up in that I get to the end of the movie and go, okay, hang on. They told me that this guy was the hero, but he actually killed more people than the bad guy. Like, how does that work? Asking those kinds of questions, I think, are important.
I absolutely agree. So Appian Media is your company, and it is known for producing high quality but biblically accurate content. So how do you think that media like yours can serve as a counter to Hollywood's storytelling power, which they definitely have?
They do. It is very powerful. I actually refer to what we do. It began as tongue-in-cheek, but then I actually realized it was a very apt description. We are Hollywood's Trojan horse. Not what they are sending, but we are sending it to them. We're using their same methods and skills. I was trained by professionals in the industry, as was Stuart, our co-founder, and we are then using those tools to send a biblical Christian accurate worldview back into their homes in a way that's not subversive or secretive. We're not actually trying to hide our objectives at all. We're very clear about what we're trying to do. But our team has been trained by these industry professionals to counter that. So Appian Media was created about 10 years ago, and it stemmed from a desire for us to present people with specifically content shot over in the Bible lands to help people appreciate what they read about in the Bible. So we've traveled to Israel and Turkey and Jordan and Egypt and created content for all age groups in order to get them excited about what they read in the text. And it's based on kind of three pretty fundamental pillars for us. As you mentioned it, we want it to be biblically accurate and historically and geographically accurate and culturally accurate, but we want it to be high quality. That was something that was very important to Stuart and myself. We are not the first people to make videos like this, but we just were not seeing the level of professionalism, the level of production value that we are interested in watching. And we know that if the wrapping is hard to get past, people are not going to take the time to consume what's inside. And so we wanted it to be equal to or better than what audiences are used to consuming, specifically young people. Like, we had high schoolers in mind when we first kicked this thing off. We've now come to understand very early on that age groups, all age groups enjoy this content. But we were looking at high schoolers like, what do they watch? What do they enjoy? What do they roll their eyes at? What's not going to hold their attention? And how can we give them something that they like to watch and want to watch more of, but we're also giving them something professionally produced and something biblically accurate. And then we wanted to make it free. And we didn't necessarily have homeschoolers in mind when we first kicked this thing off. But you better believe that within a few months of releasing our first content, homeschool families found us. Free videos that I can share with my kids and my family. We love free. And just making it something that we are removing as many roadblocks as we can so that people can enjoy the content. And so one of those things is price. It's free with no strings attached.
Oh, wow. So how are you able to do that?
That's a great question. So we are a non-for-profit, and from the very beginning, we've been crowdfunded. So we actually reach out to the audiences beforehand and explain what we would like to create next, explain what the budget is. Creating this kind of content is not cheap. This is international travel. This is, filming and film permits and accommodations and months of post-production. And we're very upfront about this is where the money will go. This is what we need it for. This is what we need for distribution so that we can give it away. And year over year, project after project, people have come out and supported us from a variety of circles of people. But it is primarily just individuals, families that appreciate what we're doing and want us to produce more.
Well, that is wonderful. So can you tell us some of the topics that you have covered with your films already?
Sure. We began with the story of Jesus. It seemed like the right place to start. That involved 2 production trips over a period of 2 years into the land of Israel. And we created a 10-episode series called Following the Messiah. Each episode is about 25 minutes long. And so it's just about 4 hours worth of content where we trace from Bethlehem to Jerusalem to everywhere in between. We take a boat out on the Sea of Galilee. We go to the sites where John the Baptist was baptizing. We talk to locals. We eat the food. We talk about the culture. And we really wanted people to not feel like we were giving a lecture from the land, but that we were actually taking them into the land. And oftentimes we'll kind of embrace the behind the scenes and let them see the team and feel like they're traveling with us. We did a series about the first kings of Israel, so Saul and David and Solomon, and really leaned into the archaeological evidence of the biblical story. We did a series about the 7 churches of Revelation by traveling over to Western Turkey. And just within the last year, we released a series about the Exodus. So that took us to Egypt and Jordan, and that was incredibly challenging. And we show people that. We wanted people to understand how difficult it would have been for the people to come out of that land and travel through the wilderness. And then we've done children's series written for a younger age group, smaller videos based on those same topics. And we call those Lessons from the Land. Okay. And so all told, including our podcasts and our behind the scenes, it is almost 24 hours worth of content. So.
Wow. So what is your plan for the future? What other topics are you going to take on?
How much of the Bible is there?
Okay.
I say that facetiously. Barry Britnell, one of our hosts, is like, from the very first trip, he said, you will come to understand that there are not just 5 stories that we could choose from. There are 500 stories that we could choose from. Our goal is, our long-term goal, our 10 to 15-year plan is to actually create content from Genesis to Revelation. And along with that, create a curriculum that families can use. Because we also, in addition to the free videos, we do produce printed workbooks that have photos as well as QR codes in every lesson, so they can scan that and watch a portion of video as they then get into their lesson. And we want to create a curriculum for grade school up that takes them through the Bible in 3 years, and then from junior high all the way to adults that take them through the Bible in 3 years. And that's going to involve, many more production trips and expanding our team. But Lord willing, we are planning to travel back to Israel and Turkey and Greece this fall to begin a series on the Acts and the epistles. And that's what we've got our eyes on next, Lord willing.
Wow, super exciting. Okay, so my last question for you before I ask you, how can we get our hands on all these great videos and materials that you've produced is this. How can we, as homeschooling families, and you have experience in this, make time in our lives for quality content like you're producing through Appian Media instead of just defaulting to Hollywood's media?
Sure. I think one of the main ways is just being aware that it is out there and it is available. Sometimes it's not as readily available as we would like. Maybe we can't find it on our Netflix or Amazon Prime, although that is changing. I am starting to see more and more quality content buried in among the other stuff, but just knowing where to look. And so there are services out there specific for streaming family-friendly content, places like PureFlix or Minnow or Redeem TV or Faith Life TV. Many of these channels actually distribute our content as well. But just signing up for those, look, we're paying like $20 or $25 a month for Disney Plus now. That doesn't make any sense. Paying, $5 to $10 or something a month for a streaming service where you know that your kids can search that library and you're not worried about what they might find when they plug in those search words. Just being aware that content is available and free, and then also just doing your research as far as prior to seeing a movie. There are some great resources for people who've done reviews, and they can let you know they call it a parent's review, but I think it's good for anybody. What's in this movie? Is it appropriate? And so there are websites that I use on a regular basis, Common Sense Media or Plugged In, kind of all one word, Plugged In, or Kids in Mind. Do these very helpful reviews of prior to coming out in theaters or being released on a streaming service. They will have gone and watched the film or TV show and given you, maybe not a detailed, here's all the bad words that they said, but they'll give you an idea of how much profanity is in it, what kind of attitudes are in it, what kind of messaging is there, and I find that incredibly helpful.
Yes, I do too. And as someone who is pretty much of an empty nester, I still have an adult child living at home, and I probably will for quite a number of years. I find that I can watch adult content in my home now, but it has a very negative impact on my mood, my motivation. And I am interested in watching your content because I know my faith will grow and I will have better spirits to go to sleep to. I can feel better and not just down and depressed because of the content that I'm watching through Hollywood. But I just so appreciate this, and I'm super excited to start watching your videos, and I know my husband's going to be excited too. So where is the best place for us to get all of your resources?
Yeah, you can visit us at our website, Appian Media, so APPIAN media.org. You can also look us up on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is there and growing, and all of the content. So not just the main series, but I'm a big fan, our team is a big fan of the behind the scenes. But we do video podcasts where we go even deeper into certain subjects that maybe we couldn't cover in the main documentaries. There are children's series, and it's all there, especially on our website and YouTube channel, categorized, and you can see, following the biblical text. Again, our goal in 10 years' time is we would love for someone to say, look, I'm interested to know more about the book of Joshua. What does Appian Media have? Okay, here's our series about Joshua and the conquest and the judges. And so, appianmedia.org is probably the best place to find us. And there's a contact form on there that if people have questions or suggestions for new series or want to learn more, that actually comes to myself and to other members of our team. And I'm always interested to hear from people about what they'd like us to see create next. But also, I love to hear how they're using the content and how that's a benefit to them.
Absolutely. Well, I hope that our listeners will get in touch with you. I know it makes a big difference to me as a content creator when I hear that it has been helpful, something that I have created. So I know that you would feel that same way. And speaking of that, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to share this with us. I'm going to put all of your links in the show notes for this episode. But Craig, thank you so much for joining me today.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me.
To find the links to Appian Media and the Great Homeschool Conventions, visit the show notes page at homeschoolsanity.com/counterhollywood. Have a happy homeschool week. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. I hope something you heard was encouraging. If you have a personal question to follow up, don't hesitate to message me. I'm at Homeschool Sanity on social media. Be sure to check my free resource page at homeschoolsanity.com/resource and find sanity-saving curriculum at funtolearnbooks.com. This has been a production of the Ultimate Homeschool Radio Network.